Hey everybody, welcome to Board Online, Board Offline. Today we have our annual list of our most played games of all time based on the number of hours played. Now, this is a series. I've been keeping track of my plays since July of, I believe around, or maybe April, I believe. Around April or so of 2014. So this list at this point has a pretty good amount of data in it. So like I said, we're going to be going through our top 20. This consists of, as far as what sort of data set I'm drawing from here, I have 1,604 plays at this point of 207 different games. I've spent a total of 1,369 hours playing, and that's an average of time per play of around 51 minutes to give you an idea of, the general, length of game that I play there. My H index, for those of you who are interested in that, is 20. I just hit 20 a couple months ago. And on this list, something that's kind of interesting, there's only one new game on this list this year. And there are 12 games on this list that I didn't get a single play over the past 365 days. So the time frame or when this list, the cutoff for this list, I should say, was October 31st. That was the last day that anything got added to this list. So with all of that in mind, we're going to get right down to this list here in just a moment. I do want to mention our sponsor, Board Game Co. This is a fantastic website where you can buy, sell, and trade games. They have a great selection of games for you to choose from. If you're looking to build out your collection, you just want to add some more, gaming goodness to your game room, whatever it is you're looking for, they probably can get their hands on it for you. Or they also are willing to buy games from you. They have very competitive pricing, a real good system for purchasing games, makes it real easy for you, so be sure to check that out. They also, and this is the part that I think is really cool, have a trade system where if you have a Board Game Geek account and you've built a trade list over there, you have games on your list that you have for trade, games that you want in trade, they can then take that list that you've already created, compare it to their inventory, and build a trade list based off of your list and their inventory right there on their website and make it super easy for you to trade with them. Now, if you don't have a Board Game Geek account, no big deal. You can still trade with them. It just takes a little bit more work on your part, but it is still over there available to you. And if you do go check them out, please be sure to click on the link in the description below so they know I sent you over there. Board Game Co. makes it easy to buy, sell, and trade your way into a better collection. Okay, without anything else, we are going to get right into the list. Now, every list like this that we do is, of course, done by the minute. So this will be 20 minutes starting right now. Number 20 is Risk Legacy with 15 hours and 16 minutes. This one hasn't been played in the past year, so this one is going to be holding steady. This was never going to change, really. I don't think I'll ever get back into Risk Legacy. In fact, I'm not even sure. I think I might have actually gotten rid of my copy during the past move. But this game is from Rob Daviau, published by Hasbro. Rob Daviau at this point has made quite a name for himself in the hobby board game world, but at this point he was working for Hasbro. He had this idea for a Risk variant where your choices mattered not only in the current game but in all future games, and so Legacy was born. This is the very first Legacy game, and that means that you actually are making permanent changes to the game that will always be there no matter what. You are changing stats on the board, you are ripping cards up, like literally ripping cards up, and you're unlocking new factions, all kinds of stuff like that people had not seen before, and it really blew people's minds that the amount of innovation that was found in this game from Hasbro, and that's all thanks to Rob Daviau. That's Risk Legacy, number 20. Number 19 is PAX Emancipation. This also 15 hours and 16 minutes somehow. That's kind of interesting, but it's this is a game from Phil Eklund where you are basically taking part in the global push to end slavery. and there's 3 different factions you can possibly choose from. Most of the game is cooperative. It's very, very, very complex in terms of the rule set, in terms of the interactions. But if you can get past that learning curve, there is an amazing game underneath here. It does have a mode where at the end of the cooperative version, it can become competitive if you want it to, and if certain game conditions have been met. I've played solo. I've only played solo so far, and probably that'd be the main way I'm interested in playing it. And so I don't know that I'll ever see the competitive mode, but the cooperative mode is fantastic. I really like it a lot. That's PAX Emancipation. Number 18 is Mechs versus Minions. 17 hours, 47 minutes. This one is from Riot Games. You are one of 4 Yordles, which are these little gremlin type or gnome. They're like a gnome gremlin hybrid that are mechanically inclined, and so they have these mechs that they sit in, they run around, and they are fighting all these minions. The game literally comes with 100 minion minis, and the minions are just swarming the board, and you're just wiping them off the map. There are always more coming. And it's a campaign game, and so there's lots of different objectives each scenario, and you're moving along. Gorgeous components. It's a programming game, so when you start the mission, you have like your mech's going to do 2 or 3 things, but then as you continue playing, you build out your program, and so the mech does more and more things every time. And because you run from the beginning of your program to the end every time, you don't always know exactly what's going to happen with your mech as each turn comes around. A lot of fun stuff happens there. That's Mechs versus Minions. Number 17 is Splendor with 18 hours, 42 minutes. Splendor is a game where basically you are buying cards to then generate more ability to buy better cards, and it keeps going like that until you have generated 15 prestige points. Some of the cards have prestige points on them. The level 1 cards, for instance, have a few of them have 1 prestige point. When you move on to level 2 and you start getting where you can buy those, well, those are going to have even more prestige points on them. And then finally, level 3 cards have a ton of prestige points, and you're probably only going to end up with 1 or 2 of those. And maybe you'll attract some nobles that are across the top of the board there, and they are worth even more prestige points, and the first one to 15 wins. That's Splendor. Number 16 is Root with 20 hours and 17 minutes. Root is a game where basically it takes place in this woodland world. All the different factions are different animal types, and they are battling over this area. In the base game, you have the cat faction that starts out across the entire board, and they gain points by building structures. Then you have the birds who gain points. They start in one little area, and they gain points by building by having roost out on the board, not by building them, but by still having them. Basically by taking over more of the board, because it was their area to begin with. The cats took it from them. They need to take it back. Then you have the Woodland Alliance that are basically like the guerrilla warfare team of the board, and you have this other guy who's just a single individual ranger type character running around just causing havoc. Each faction has very, very different rules, very different ways to score points. First one to, I think, 40 points wins. So everybody's trying to get points, but they all get them in such completely different ways. It's fantastic. That's Root, number 16. Number 15 is Star Realms. This is a deck building game. This one has 23 hours, 51 minutes. Everybody starts with the exact same deck of cards. There's a market, I say everybody, it's a 2-player game. There's a market in the center of the board, and you are using your cards to buy cards from that market. You can also use your cards to attack the other player. As you make your deck better, there's 4 different factions. Each faction has its own specialization. One of them makes other players discard their cards. Another one helps you trash the bad cards in your hand. Another one deals excessive amounts of damage. Another one heals you. So those are kind of the different factions you have there. And as you build up your deck, you start dealing out more and more damage to the opponent. And the first one to get rid of the opponent's life, they call it authority in this game, wins the game. Number 14 is Scythe with 24 hours and 12 minutes. Scythe is this game, it takes place in like post-World War I times, but mechs are a thing that happened in this world. And so you're partially, managing your area, trying to get resources, but you're also fighting off other players if they start encroaching on your area. And the first person to get to achieve 6 stars, which happen from various different ways in the game, that ends the game, but that's not necessarily the person that's going to win. It gives them an edge, but they're not necessarily going to win, because then you're going to calculate points, and points are based off of money, based off of land area, based off stars, and based off certain other things, and the person who has those points wins. But this is a gorgeous game with really fantastic production quality. I actually ended up giving away my copy in a giveaway recently because I had played quite a bit of it, and I'm kind of done with it at the moment, but I'd love to play. If somebody else had a copy, I would absolutely say, yeah, absolutely, let's play the game. Number 13 is Zyya, Legends of a Drift System, 25 hours, 47 minutes. The only reason I don't have this game anymore is because I couldn't get anybody else to play it with me, and I just didn't really care too much for the solo mode in this one. But it is a wonderful, wonderful, fantastic sandbox space game where you are like an individual pilot of an individual ship, kind of like the Millennium Falcon, where you have kind of a small crew. You're going around exploring. As you go out, you're flipping out more and more tiles, and the galaxy can really start to spread out across the board. All kinds of beautiful artwork in this game, lots of different missions, different mission types, different ways you can score victory points. And it is a victory point race, that's what you're trying to get to, but there's just so many different ways to do it. And the cool thing with this one that I really like is the ships have this polyomino method of building them out. So as you buy engines and weapons and stuff like that, they have to fit with this polyomino style onto the ship for them to be able to be used. That's Zyya. Number 12 is 7th Continent with 26 hours, 33 minutes. 7th Continent is, you wake up and you are cursed, basically. And you got to go to, or you kind of just appear on the 7th Continent, and you know that this is where you got to be to get the curse, to remove the curse from you. And so the continent itself, no matter which curse you play, you start in a different location for every curse, but no matter which curse you play, the continent never changes. It's always the exact same layout, and so the more you play the game, the more familiar you are with the continent, the easier it is to make your way around the continent and potentially win the game. Excellent adventure game. It definitely is a little polarizing. Some people love it, some people don't like it at all. But I really have enjoyed it, and actually I've got it on my table waiting to set up for another curse that I haven't played yet. That's the 7th Continent. Number 11 is Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition with 28 hours, 23 minutes. This is a Cthulhu-based based game where you actually are you start on a single tile, and there's an app that governs the game. And so when you leave this room, the app tells you what the next room is going to be. The app controls the bad guys, the app controls the mystery, the app controls just about everything. But you have, as you go from room to room, you're exploring different cards that get put out. You're exploring different, areas of the room and trying to figure out what this mystery is, how to solve it. A lot of times there's like some sort of occult ritual you've got to interrupt. Lots of different stuff going on here. Very spooky game, great for this time of year. Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition. Number 10 is Pandemic with 31 hours, 44 minutes. Pandemic is one of the first games that really put cooperative games on the map. I know it's not the first cooperative game, but it's one of the first ones that really put on the map. It's one that's still to this day sold in big box chain stores, so it really has put itself out there, and people have really taken to it. There are 4 diseases rampaging through the world. You are one of up to 4 different players can play as members of a CDC-style team that's trying to figure out the cure for these diseases. You collect cards, and then when you have the right set of cards, you turn them in to the CDC or to a research center, and that cures that color disease. Like I said, 4 different diseases. When you have all 4 cures, you win the game. Lots of different stuff in there, lots of different special powers. You can eradicate diseases so they don't show up at all for the rest of the game. Cool stuff there with Pandemic. Number 9 is Madara with 33 hours, 12 minutes. Madara is the scenario book for Madara is over 500 pages long. And that in itself is impressive, but what's really cool is it's like you're playing through a fantasy novel. The in between each scenario, there can sometimes be 8, 9, or 10 pages worth of story Like, that's mind-boggling to me, and it's fantastic production. They have such a massive amount of gear and equipment that you can use throughout the game. I mean, it is just mind-boggling the amount of time and thought and energy that went into these. And then the characters themselves, there are no classes in this game. You can completely build your characters from the ground up exactly how you want to, create your own unique, class as you're playing the game. Whatever you think is going to work best, that is what you can do. Madara has a lot of cool stuff going on. Number 8 is Star Wars Imperial Assault with 33 hours and 42 minutes. This is, you're not any of the major Star Wars characters. They do show up on occasion, but they are not really controlled by you. They're kind of either are there to help or there to hurt, in the case of Darth Vader showing up, which is terrifying. And this is kind of like Mansions of Madness, where you start, if you're playing with the app, this is a Mansions of Madness similar thing where you start in a single location and then the map spreads out in front of you as you play, using the app. It also has a 1 versus many mode, which I don't really enjoy playing anymore. I only play the cooperative version. The 1 versus many felt like I had a runaway leader problem. Lots of dice chucking in this game, lots of cool Star Wars equipment, lots of cool Star Wars bad guys. Really, really good stuff going on here with Star Wars Imperial Assault. Number 7 is Pandemic Legacy with 41 hours, 13 minutes. The reason I got that many hours with this game is I actually played twice. Played through the Pandemic Legacy Season 1 campaign with my wife, and then I enjoyed it so much, I played through it again with my gaming group. Pandemic Legacy is it takes that pandemic system I already described, and now it has the legacy elements from Risk Legacy that I already described. And what you have is a situation where every time there's an outbreak on the board, you put a sticker on the board, and that place is now more unstable. If there's another outbreak there, it starts rioting. If there's another outbreak there, it just keeps getting worse and worse until it's almost completely impossible to go into that city because it's been so destabilized by the rampaging diseases. If your character is in a city when it outbreaks, then your character gets a scar and they have some sort of psychological problem, or maybe literally a physical scar of some kind. If they get 3 scars, they die. You rip up your character's card at that point and can never use them again for the rest of the time you're playing Pandemic Legacy. Such an amazing experience. It's got a great storyline too, with plot twists and everything. That's Pandemic Legacy Season 1. Dead of Winter, number 6, 48 hours, 27 minutes. This game is so cool. It was the first Hidden Trader game I ever played. The way the Hidden Trader works in this game is you may have one, you may not. It could be everybody's on the same team, or it could be one person is a traitor. If that's the case, well, you got a real problem on your hands, and you're going to have to be trying to suss them out. But when you play, you're going to different locations, you're digging through the deck of cards, trying to get all kinds of equipment and resources. And there's zombies there too, but they generally are the least of your worries, unless things really get out of hand. Sometimes the zombies will really start pouring in and encroaching on you. Then you've got a real problem. But excuse me. But then what was I saying? Oh, so what you really have to worry about though is your are the people you're playing with, are they traitors, or are they just have personal goals that make them a little bit selfish? Hard to suss out. Really, really interesting gameplay. Dead of Winter. Number 5 is Thunderstorm Advance with 51 hours, 51 minutes. Now, Thunderstorm Quest has come out. I haven't gotten to play it. I really want to play that game because Thunderstorm Advance was such an integral part of my early gaming days in the board gaming community. This is a deck building game, but it's way more built out than Star Realms. You have a market where you have all these different cards, but once the cards are chosen for the game, the market never changes. So you know exactly what's available to you, and on your turn you either go to the market or you go to the dungeon. And when you go to the dungeon, you fight these different monsters. The monsters change every game. It's not the same stuff every time. And when you defeat a monster, you get victory points for that, but that card also then takes up room in your deck. And so it's this balancing act of fighting monsters, but as your deck starts to get a little bit bloated, you go to the market to get some stuff to help deal with that. Upgrade your heroes. The heroes come in, can be leveled up. They start obviously at level 1, and they can level up 2, 3, that sort of thing. Lots of cool stuff going on with Thunderstorm Advance. Number 4 is Tainted Grail with 54 hours, 34 minutes. This is the only new game on the list this year. Tainted Grail is a dark tale of the Arthurian legend. Arthur took all of his people to Avalon. Avalon wasn't what they expected, and it has been a bloody existence from the day they got there. And now you're several centuries past the original landing of Arthur's people, and the Knights of the Round Table are in ruins. The weirdness that they had originally beaten back has come back and is re-encroaching on their land. There's all kinds of horrible things happening, and you are not the heroes. You're not the B-list heroes either. You're like the D-list heroes, and it's your job because everybody else that had any chance of doing anything about this problem has died and failed in their attempts to save the day. You're all that's left, and you have to save the day in Tainted Grail. Number 3 is Gloomhaven with 56 hours, 56 minutes. This is just a massive game from mad genius Isaac Childress. It is like 90-something scenarios as you go through this game. The card play is, you play 2 cards, and you play the top action of one, the bottom action of the other. You always have all your options available to you. You're not drawing from a deck. All your cards are in your hand at all times. Your cards are also your stamina, sort of. So every time you run out of cards and you pick them back up, you have to discard one as well. And so slowly, that acts almost like a timer. Is fully cooperative. There's no trade or nothing like that. As you play through, you're fighting these enemies, and they are very challenging, but it feels so perfectly refined and well balanced that you don't know how it's even possible one person could do this with so many variables in this game, so many unlockable characters, so many unlockable scenarios. Absolutely mind-boggling how this game even works. That's Gloomhaven. Number 2 is Mage Night with 58 hours, 34 minutes. Absolute one of the quintessential solo games of all time. I have played it with 2 players. I'll never play it with more than 2 players. Mainly play it solo. You are this massively powerful Mage Knight that shows up in the bottom corner of the map, and you work your way forward. In the primary scenario that you play, you're trying to defeat these 2 cities. There's lots of other kind of tweaks on that, but that's the main way that it's played. All kinds of really neat enemies. The enemies are like little pog guys, but that's because on the pog it has all of their stats and everything right there for you, easy to use. And as you go along, you're upgrading. You have a fame track that upgrades you as you move along it. Lots of cool, there's everything is card play this game. There's not really any dice rolling other than a little bit each round specifically for your mana, but that's a whole different story. That's Mage Night number 2. Number 1 is Kingdom Death Monster with 145 hours, 51 minutes. This game is wise. There's so many other games on this list that I have not played in the past year. I really got sucked in this game. At one point I had it just left out on my table, and I would play every chance I got. You wake up in this horrific hellscape, and you are building a society from the point of just learning language. That's how rudimentary everything is. And that is my time. You are building your technology by ripping the monsters apart that you're fighting. These monsters are things like screaming antelopes that can drive you crazy just with their scream, and that have a mouth on their where their stomach should be. There's a giant mouth with nasty teeth, and just it's really crazy the different things that the designer has come up for with this game. You really should go check out some of my gameplays of this. I have a full how to play series for it. Just so much cool, dark, depressing, wonderful stuff in Kingdom Death Monster. Yeah, it's an experience unlike any other you'll have in gaming. So there we go. That is my 20 most played games of all time. Be sure to come back for a lot more content like this. In January, we'll be doing the 20 most played games based on sheer number of plays. And I believe that's January that we do that. Let's see. Yeah, that's when we do it in January. We've got a couple other lists coming out, lots of end of year lists, a couple of beginning of year lists as well. So I look forward to bringing those to you. We also have a gameplay, of Galactic Era, this is a prototype that I've got set up right here. That's a game that will be opening up for pre-orders here real soon. So be sure to come back and check that out. Lots of great stuff going on the channel, and of course, I have an Xbox Series S showing up soon, and I will be setting up an entirely different channel for that, and I'm very, very excited about this. I will do an unboxing here on Board Online, Board Offline, and give you all the details about this other channel that we're going to be setting up, and lots of fun stuff to be had there. Until next time, from Board Online, Board Offline.